before we get into anything too crazy right now, I think it's time to talk a little bit about things be changing in the Bronx forever. It has finally happened. Almost 49 years, 1976 to be exact, was when this rule was put into place by George Steinbrenner. Facial hair. It's back on the menu, boys. We get to wear facial hair in the Bronx on our faces, and we don't have to just wear mustaches, even though Austin Wells and many guys in the past, Mattingly, to name a few, have had great mustaches, and I hope those things stay. I feel like the mustache has had a resurgence, but, you know, I hope that's not how Aaron Judge grows his facial hair, but maybe it is. I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's too interested in growing his facial hair because of all of the people who had comments on it. Aaron Judge said, we're worried about winning baseball games. In a nutshell, we're worried about winning baseball games. Why do we care about facial hair? If you're worried about that, you got other things to worry about. If you're not going to come to our team because you can't have facial hair, then we don't want you. He didn't say that specifically, but in a nutshell, just where we focus on baseball here, it's not that big of a deal. And I understand that. This seems to have come to the forefront because the new acquisition in this offseason, Devin Williams, also doesn't really like that rule. He shaved his face. I like to think that he saw it and then was like, no, something's going to have to be done about this. So he went in, he talked to Aaron Boone, he talked to Brian Cashman and said, hey, you know, people don't want to come here because they can't wear facial hair. But I think it really had to do with they don't want to come here because they don't feel like they can be themselves. I think that's a different thing, right? I also don't think it's as big of a deal there anymore. You know, we saw last year they brought in Marcus Stroman, who has swag. They had Alex Verdugo, swag. Jazz Chisholm got traded for, swag. They all got to be themselves. They wore their different colored stuff, and they played with more energy or more maybe personality that maybe would be associated with more of the military, you know, style of being this last year. And then they went to the World Series. So maybe that has something to do with it, loosening up these things. But I totally understand both sides of this. Guys want to be themselves. They want to be comfortable with what they're doing and where they're at, right? If it's an rule you feel is arbitrary and then they pile up, it feels like suppression at some point. Now, I understand people are like, dude, who cares? I agree with that as well. There's two valid perspectives here. There's many valid perspectives, but the two big ones. Wanting to be like, hey, if all things are created equal and another team who's like, hey, you can do it, be whoever you need to be and whatever makes you comfortable, all we care about is how you play, and they're offering the same amount of money. And then another place is like, hey, we have these rules that kind of create a box that you need to be in and give you the same amount of money. They're probably going to choose the place that lets them be the way that they want to be. So that's what happened, I feel like. And I feel like they walked in the office. They're like, hey, Hal, we need to get rid of this. He's like, fine, whatever. Who cares? Just play baseball, please. I'm trying to find a third baseman. Just leave me alone. And, you know, that's what it comes down to. All right, moving on with some more news. Oh, yeah, hold on. I prepared this for you. That was just for you, Foul Territory. Just for you. Let's get into some of the action we've had in these first few days of games. So the first thing I want to start off, we want to start on a light note. And there is some content creators I love that do this thing where they find some great comments on posts. And I saw one recently that is baseball related. Many of you may know who this man is, but if you don't, I will tell you about him. This is Eric Sim, aka Juco Bandit, big YouTube guy. You may have seen him striking out against Trevor Bauer in live ABs. He swings really hard. I've done a video with him. He's a funny guy. He makes baseball really fun, and he's just a bro. He's just a dude. So he posts this thing, welcome to Seattle, Eric Sim. They even like took the thing they usually use. The joke is that Seattle signed nobody. Sim's a Cali guy. He's like, maybe they need me. They need homers. I got you. I thought this was a good post. I was like, oh, nice, dude. That's funny. And then I saw the comments. And just there's a caveat. He is a very good sport, and these are on his comments a lot. So, but yeah, this is a new little segment called Mean Comments. Eat churro to sushi. Julio Rodriguez. Calzone. Sorry. Calzone Raleigh. Ken Gravy Jr. That one might be my favorite. Freaking bravo. Look, 851 likes. Look how much all these have, by the way. 1,600 likes. Only 3. Kind of sad there, but 2,000. Okay, let's get in. There's a couple last ones here. Ken Gravy Jr. We have Candy Rosarena and Ham Wilson. Too real, guys. Leave Eric alone. The guy is a really nice person and a funny dude. But I just couldn't. I had to share those. I'm sorry. I know it's my first time in foul territory. This is the type of stuff we get into. Anyway, let's get into the serious news. Oh, sorry. Edgar Martinez is the last one. And he's my favorite player. Edgar, that is. Solid trash talk. All right, let's check in on spring training. Alex Bregman, one of the newest, actually the newest addition to the Red Sox, goes 3 for 3 with a homer over the Southern Green Monster in his first game with Garrett Crochet picking up 4 Ks in an inning and 2/3 work in his first start without giving up a run. Positive showings out of these two guys. I think everyone's always trying to kind of get off spring training, into spring training on the right foot. If you can hit a homer that first day, feels pretty good. And we had quite a few of those happen this week. Also, we have another the 2022 Cy Young Award winner, and in the end, all that is Sandy Alcantara returns to the mound for the first time since 2023. 521 days. That's a long time. I myself have had a hiatus like that. There is something special about taking the mound again after that long down. It's really fun to be not hurt, to put it bluntly. He maxed out at 99.3 miles an hour on the radar gun. Great sign. Gave up, believe 3 hits, but 3 scoreless. Quality outing from Sandy Alcantara, and my God, do they need him, because if they didn't have Sandy Alcantara, Ryan Weathers would be their open day starter. And no shade to Ryan. Ryan's a good quality pitcher, but I think if you ask him, like, hey, are you an opening starter for like a playoff team? And he's like, probably not. So there is some hope in Miami, and I'll take it. I'm hopeful as well. Also, in the homer train, Elly De La Cruz hits 2 homers in his spring debut. 2 for 2 with a pair of solo home runs slugged on each side of the plate. Now, that's rare by itself. To do that in your first outing of the spring is incredible. But at this point, we should probably stop being surprised by what Elly De La Cruz does. And to be honest, he's on MLB The Show. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The cover curse. Good way to start is to hit those 2 homers right out the gate. Come out hot. And I guess the first one he hit was a projected 450 feet off of Tristan McKenzie, another guy who needs to have a strong spring training. So last year, Elly only hit 2 in 17 spring training games. This year, he's got 2 in 1. Coming off a season with 25 home runs, 67 stolen bases. He's looking to take that next step, become that superstar. And I think Tito Francona is going to be a big reason that he makes a lot of those strides. So it's going to be interesting to see how he continues to get better. Speaking of more homers hit in their first debut, the man, Juan Soto, hits a 426-foot home run in his first at-bat as a New York Met, cementing the idea in every Mets fan that he deserves every dollar of that $758 million. Myself included. So he swung real hard. His first swing a miss. Second swing, Yahtzee. So just like we wrote it up. Also, in that same game, Clem Holmes takes the mound as a starting pitcher for the first time in a very long time and throws 3 scoreless innings. Now, there's a couple really interesting things about the fact that he threw 3 innings. I know this isn't a huge deal, but I do find it interesting. One, guys throwing 3 innings in their first spring training start, rare. Usually they throw 1 or 2. Guys are stretching out slowly. But this is, I've heard a lot recently, especially in the last 6 weeks or so, that Clay has been down. He's been early, and he's been taking it very seriously, trying to stretch himself out and go into spring training like without needing to kick off the rust of being a reliever for so long and just be a starter. So I'd say mission accomplished. You throw 3 innings your first time, especially scoreless, bravo. Check that box. Second, he's throwing a third pitch, a brand new changeup called a kick change. We talked about this a little bit last week. I showed you the grip. This is something we're going to be touching on a lot this year because the kick change is a new one that I'm seeing out in the amateur space. The guys at Tread are teaching it. The guys at Driveline are teaching it. It is now added to the menu when you go in to do a pitch design session. You can choose the pitches you want to try, and now the kick change is part of it. It's just another version of a changeup that allows guys who weren't previously able to throw an off-speed pitch like that. By the way, breaking balls are all the ones that break. Off-speed pitches are changeups and varieties like that. Knuckleball, changeup, screwball, splitter, forkball. Those are off-speed pitches if you're bucketing them, just so you guys know. So I'm excited to see how that pitch comes out, develops over the season. My guy, Jeremy Hefner, is the pitching coach over there in New York. So he's going to get all of the resources he possibly could use or need in order to make that pitch really, really good. We also have the ABS challenge coming. They're running a test for the ABS challenge, which, if anyone who doesn't know, automated balls and strikes, but it's a challenge system. So just a quick recap. A hitter or a pitcher feels like the pitch was called incorrectly. Little tap on the top of the head, and they will quickly check up on it on the board. It actually is really quick. A lot of these things are being checked in less than 10 seconds, so it's not a huge delay, which isn't too bad. I like it. But there are a few things that are interesting about this. One, this thing's been tested for like 4 years at this point, right? And they are slowly rolling it out for a few big reasons. Now, this doesn't mean that we're moving towards robot umpires. I don't think we're ever going to get there because I don't think it improves the quality of the product. I don't think getting every single pitch exactly right every time immediately is actually that fun. I think that actually the challenge adds a little bit more tension and strategy for both teams to use. You only have so many challenges. When you get them, you can get them right forever. You could be on a streak the whole game and then never lose any. That is a skill you could learn to be really smart and learn the strike zone. It also prioritizes guys learning what that is so they get the opportunity to call those things. I think that's a net positive for hitting. Honestly, I just think that's a net positive. Also, I feel a little bit better for umpires. I know. That's a weird take, but you know what? They just get yelled at, and I understand they got to do their job better, but now there's a way to be kind of vindicated or get the thing right. So maybe we're just yeah, they're human. It'll make us see them as hey, just make mistakes, but we can fix it a little bit. We have an opportunity to fix it, and maybe that'll smooth that out a little bit too. Okay? But the reason this thing is taking so long to roll out is look at it. Does anyone notice does this strike zone look weird to you? Does it look a little bit short? That is because in AAA, and I was there in 2023, I rehabbed in Sacramento and Salt Lake. So I had to deal with the ABS system. We have the ABS system. And it's great and all, except it's kind of hard to know where the strike zone is these days. So what they did was they shaved a little bit off the top of the zone and they shaved a little bit off the bottom. So what they did was they tried to squeeze it a little bit a little bit this way for the system. So it's not the strike zone that veterans who've been playing the game for a long time are used to, that umpires are looking for. So I didn't know where the top of the zone was. And it was interesting. So I was like, I'm not going to do this at all because I don't know. I got to learn the zone again. And that was the thing that gave me pause. And I think that's a lot of feedback that a lot of pitchers gave. They were like, hey, you're going to shrink the strike zone while making it this, like, just sneak that in there. So they've been trying to calibrate this thing, get this thing standardized across the league. That is one of the hardest things they're having to do because of the way cameras are positioned and everywhere's different. And to get it exactly the same, so it's the same every park, is a lot of the hang up. I believe there's a gentleman that works with the Detroit Tigers. I had a conversation with him when we played them in Comerica, and I'm blanking on his name, so I apologize for that if you were here watching. But he parroted the same thing, and he was one of the few people that were in charge of like facilitating the testing in Toledo and other places. And he said this. He's like, yes, the calibration is tough. Also, figuring out what the proper size is so you're not giving too much of an advantage to a hitter is tough. And we haven't found that sweet spot yet, so we want to keep testing it. And now they're doing it in the big leagues. So I like it. If we're going to do something, I like it, right? I think that overwhelmingly people like it generally. I actually run this week's poll was in my Instagram. I have a little thing called Baseball is Alive, a community where I run some polls every once in a while. And this is what they said. Love it. No notes. 258 of the 300 people that voted, roughly, of the 340. So this is, I don't know why it doesn't show a percentage. That kind of drives me nuts, but that's like 80% of the vote. Love it. No notes. Matt feels unnecessary. 18 people. Because you know what? When that option's there, some people just click it. Okay. Yeah. Seems overwhelmingly positive feel. It's not taking away from the broadcast. If anything, it's like, will we get it? I just want to see, I just want to see an interesting, dichotomy between the veteran guys and the young guys who are given the green light to run these things and go. So, we had a question, this is another cool, interesting thing I have on my show, and no one else has it. Well, not no one else, but I have it. I can grab a question. So this question was just asked, does it need to touch, or is there a threshold for it to be called a ball strike? It only needs to, any part of the ball needs to be touching the strike zone for it to be a strike. As of right this moment. That's another thing with calibration, and that's a phenomenal question, actually, because you reminded me to talk about this. They're trying to figure out if they want to do like half the ball, like more than 50% of the ball needs to be in, but then the strike zone could be bigger. Or are we going to do barely touching? Or are we going to do, it needs to be 25% of the ball or more? Or if it's just like, right now they're just running and just touch it. Just like they're trying to keep the rules the way they are. But at the end of the day, there is going to be a shrinking of strike zone when this is implemented. There is. The strike zone will shrink. It really, really will. It really, really will. So, be aware of that. Just be aware of that when pitchers start complaining, because they will. My guys, that's all we do. We complain. That's what we do best. When pitchers complain, it's going to be in the spirit of, I have to make adjustments again. Right? I have to change things and how I think and things that I've worked very hard to adjust. Now I have to change it again. Right? So get ready to hear that. Same thing with the pitch clock, which now that I don't play, I think the pitch clock's great. So I was wrong, and I'm an idiot. All right, moving on. Sean Manaea. A lot of positives for the Mets. This is not one of them. Sean Manaea is likely headed to the IL with an oblique strain. Fortunately, oblique strains are not that long. They're 4 to 6 weeks for the most part. He's a starting pitcher. Expect him to be back in April, end of April maybe, at the latest. They'll probably take it really easy because we're here at the beginning of the year, but he was penciled in to be their 1 or 2 starter. Losing him is not ideal. They're already kind of struggling with depth in that starting rotation as is, after losing Montas as well. So there's 2 of the 5 gone. So it looks like Clay Holmes is going to be leaned on pretty heavily. Tyler McGill is going to be in there, DP, David Peterson, and I mean, I don't know where we're going from there, but sad to see Manaea, but I wouldn't panic too much. It's not a super long-term thing. And if it were Scherzer, he'd be back in like 45 minutes. The Yankees extend Aaron Boone to a 2-year contract through the 2027 season to take him to 9 years as the Yankees manager. Now, I think this is very good timing for this because they went to the World Series. When you go to the World Series, you keep what you have. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type situation. So why not? Why not keep Aaron Boone at the helm? As we know, Brian Cashman's going to be there, and Hal Steinbrenner's going to be there too. I think these guys are the three musketeers. I think they're going to stick it out together. I think they really like Aaron Boone and what he's bringing to the table, even though a World Series hasn't quite happened yet, but they did get close. Right? But one interesting thing, and I thought this was worth mentioning, something we noticed, right? It feels like there's a laundry list of things that are a little bit more difficult about playing in these big markets, namely New York, Philadelphia, Boston, LA, and Chicago. Mountain scrutiny is higher. The things that are in the media constantly, and the media is all competing with each other for clicks as well. So every little thing's gonna be talked about, and so you would assume keeping a managerial job at one of these teams is probably the hardest place to be. I would say that's true for the Mets, and I would say that's true for the Red Sox. I wouldn't actually say it's true for the Red Sox either. Red Sox are kind of similar to this situation. But the interesting thing is it goes one or two ways, right? That's not always true. Sometimes you actually have more job security because of the uniqueness of the organization you're in. Being a Yankees manager it takes a very specific type of person. And if you're not certain that person can handle doing that job, it's kind of hard to hire for it unless they've done it before. And so that's why I think we see a little bit of hesitation for the some of the bigger markets with the more interesting, there's things come along with the job that don't come along with it in the other 27 of the other teams. You might stick. So I think that Aaron Boone has a little bit of that situation. He's done good enough, but he hasn't been held at the standard that maybe other managers would have been held to. So it's an interesting situation and something to notice. I just thought it was interesting and that you guys would think it was cool because, like Alex Cora too, he's probably immune to a really bad season or two. He's probably immune to making the playoffs a couple times because he understands what it takes to win there. He also has a World Series under his belt. But Aaron Boone, he's just going to keep on keeping on. It's going to have to go really downhill for him and Aaron Boone. And I'm going to throw Cashman in here too. They're going to be there for a while. So throw your support behind him. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. No extension for Vladdy. Probably going to be a free agent. And has said, very smartly, that he's open to all 30 teams. He famously said a few years ago, I want to go beat the Yankees. I won't sign with the Yankees. Paraphrasing here, obviously. But now he's come around. Of course, he's done that. Do I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. ends up with the Yankees? I don't think so. It's going to be interesting to watch his free agency next year. We're going to have a lot of conversations about how free agency has developed, especially with the first baseman asking for as much money as he's going to ask for. But I think step one, go hit 320 again, and you'll be fine. And finally, there's been a lot of rumblings out there about the uniforms and how they were fixed. The lettering, different, or back to normal. The back of the jerseys, the names bigger, the numbers thicker, the jerseys more robust. Unfortunately, pants still see-through. Fanatics, which manufactures the uniforms, started measuring players in August to get started on the 2025 uniforms, according to MLB. They will visit each camp this spring to make necessary adjustments. That'll probably be adding another layer to the pants. So, guys, it only took a year, and we got halfway there. That's called progress. I think that you guys should just cut them a break, okay? The unis are getting better. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a breeze.